Who's ready for story time? I'm gonna talk about my yoga story, how I got into yoga, and how I'm getting into yoga teaching. It all started about math. Hold on one sec. 6 years ago. That's where it all really started, I must say. Like most people, there was an event in my life, a time that was challenging, and during this time, I was witnessing my father dying, and it's Father's Day today, so how appropriate. It was also his birthday yesterday. This is always an interesting weekend in my life. But anyways, it was the summer, well, he was dying, that I went to my first yoga class. My sister proposed that we go to this class, and we went. It was beautiful. And at the end of the class, I cried, and I couldn't stop crying, and I didn't know what was going on. I felt kind of silly. I thought maybe the teacher would come and help me, but she kind of just left me there, so I don't know if that was a good thing or a bad thing. But that's what happened. I didn't really do yoga regularly or anything after that. I was more like into running, and I was having these weird eating habits stuff too. I guess you could say I was really obsessed with like food and stuff, and that was my coping mechanism back then. Maybe I would talk about that in another video, but basically I was starting to be like hyper aware of like fitness and health and stuff like that, but never really yoga. I would kind of just run and do things that I didn't really actually enjoy doing, and not eat, and then overeat, and then guilt about it, and blah blah blah. So I didn't really have a good coping skills for all of the things I was feeling, all the things I didn't understand that I was feeling. I could always go in more detail into all of the things, but those are other videos. Yeah, so I reached a point where I was really not doing well mentally, I would say. But it's like I didn't even realize, and then I decided to finish my year of school and then go to hang out with my family in France for like 3 months that summer. So that was summer of 2013. And then while I was in France that summer, I was still like aware of fitness and all that stuff, but I knew that I hated running, so I didn't want to, and I was trying to figure out like what exercise works for me, right? So I decided to do some yoga online because I had remembered that it felt nice, and I've been hearing about yoga and the benefits, so I was like, okay, I'll do some. So I found Yoga with Adriene on YouTube. A lot of people know who she is. And I was doing some of her stuff, but yeah, again, it was really like not very regular, but I did enjoy it. And then while I was in Montreal, because I was living in Montreal at the time, I ended up going to some drop-in classes at like Moksha Yoga. I didn't really like the heat I was noticing. And yeah, and then I stopped again for a while, and it wasn't really until the end of a crazy relationship I had while I was still in Montreal, I decided to leave everything and move back to Toronto and just like start over again, start fresh. I moved back in with my mom, and I didn't know what to do with myself. So this was June 2015, and I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. I was no longer in school, I was no longer in a relationship, I no longer wanted to be in a relationship at that time. But I also started doing some yoga at that time because my days were free of anything and anyone, and I noticed Yoga with Adriene had put up this 30-day challenge that was originally from the January, but I wanted to do that. So in June 2015, I started my first 30-day Yoga with Adriene challenge, and then as I was looking online at this college in Toronto called George Brown, for programs and things that I could maybe do, because I didn't know what I was doing with my life, so I figured I may as well look into stuff. I couldn't decide what I wanted to do, and then I stumbled upon this program they had called Classical Yoga Teacher Training. And in my mind, I thought, nah, I can't do that, I'm too scared of talking in front of people, and I had all these like confidence issues that were causing resistance towards clicking on it and applying to it. But at the end of the day, I was like, well, why not? So I applied to that and I just did that, and then I kept doing yoga throughout that summer. I started getting good at it like really quickly. Yeah, it just felt really natural to me. I do have a background in dance and some gymnastics. I've always been hypermobile, so it was really easy for me to bend into certain postures and make it look like I knew what I was doing, but really, I later down the road learned that hypermobility can actually be dangerous, so more videos on that too. I learned a lot from that. Then I started in September, I started my first yoga teacher training. At that point, I had also started volunteering at a yoga studio in Toronto, which eventually became my yoga community before I moved here in Newfoundland. While I was doing the yoga teacher training, so the teacher training I did, like the first one, the 200-hour, was a kind of program that went on over a year. So it was there was like 3 or 4 different terms. We did it. It was like Tuesday night and Wednesday nights. My philosophy teacher's name is David Gluck, and my asana teacher was Angela Jervis-Reed. The only issue I had with that teacher training was the fact that George Brown, as a college, was not very understanding of what a yoga training actually needs. Like most yoga teacher trainings, they will offer yoga classes on top of it, like as part of the program, and this one didn't. So it was up to us to go to a yoga studio and doing the classes. Luckily for me, I was already volunteering at a yoga studio, so I had access to that. But like, I loved the teachers from my program, but the school itself, because it was under a college, it was also not registered under Yoga Alliance, so it made it that I sort of missed out on some of the things that I could have benefited from if I had done my research and joined a 200-hour yoga program that was under Yoga Alliance. But anyways, I still learned all of the skills, and because my teachers were great, but they're no longer doing that program anymore because they too had issues with the school that it was at. Anyways, I don't regret my decision because of the teachers I met and the people I was with and the little group I was with. Yeah, if I were to do it again, I would have probably done my research and actually found a school that had the Yoga Alliance registration to it and all that stuff. Summer of 2016, I finished my 200 hours, yay me, but I still felt like not quite ready and I wanted to do more, and I had some money to travel. So I wanted to do something crazy. I asked my asana teacher, Angela Jervis-Reed, where she had done her 300-hour, and she talked about the school that she went to in Goa in India called Sampurna. The 300-hour yoga teacher training, so you get your 200 and then you can do your 300, which gives you a 500-hour certificate. I did that in Goa in January of 2017. So that was a year and a half ago now. That was a crazy experience. I had always been terrified of traveling to anywhere that's like in Asia and like super duper far. So I was surprised that I actually did that. But yeah, that program was more of your traditional teacher training, the kind that you like do really intensely for a month and you sleep there and stuff. And I thought that that was really beneficial to my yoga journey, because every single day we did the meditation and pranayama for an hour, and then we did a 2-hour hardcore vinyasa flow. So it really helped strengthen and build the yoga muscles in my body to understand the benefits of yoga, like truly. And I feel like it really transformed my practice. Even though like I felt like my practice was already pretty strong, but this like strengthened the practice. And as a hypermobile person, strength is something that I really need to work on, strength and mobility, in order to keep my joints safe. More on that in another video. And where I am today is I'm now in Newfoundland. I volunteer at a yoga studio here, and I'm in the process of becoming a teacher on their team. Right now I'm observing some classes and taking notes on the teachers and sort of integrating myself in their community. Hopefully maybe in like 2 or 3 months I will start subbing their classes. What I've learned from becoming a yoga teacher is that it takes time. It's not always easy, especially if you're someone like me and and have had confidence issues in the past. It's hard to get up there and be responsible for a group of people, especially in a society that is so prone to imposter syndrome, just because there's so much information out there and so many different opinions and so many different cultures and thoughts on yoga, and something like yoga that's prone to like culture appropriation, and there's so many different opinions. Basically, when I'm teaching yoga, I'm constantly questioning myself and if what I'm saying is right or wrong, and if what I'm doing is okay, because I just want to make people feel good, and I don't want anybody to feel like I don't know. Anyways, so what I'm learning as a new yoga teacher and someone who's trying to put herself out there is that it takes time to learn how to teach. It takes experience. It takes those few years in the beginning of messing up and not being that great and just practicing the teaching part, because teaching yoga itself is a practice in itself. And I finally understand that. For a while, I thought that because I had done my teacher trainings, I should be just as good as all of the teachers that I look up to already, and I was feeling a little bit ashamed of myself that I was not yet teaching. But yeah, it takes time to learn how to teach. So I'm letting myself make all of the mistakes and feel all of the feelings that comes with building confidence right now, and that's where I'm at with the yoga journey. I'm sure there's more that I can get into, but just for the sake of time, that is the brief story of my yoga journey. I hope you enjoyed, and if you have any questions, please let me know. Peace. Goodbye.